We're going live and we're going to be creating this second fun alternative card using the March 2021 paper pumpkin kit called Here's to You. So we'll just take a minute and let a couple people join us while I get everything up and running. Okay, if you're joining us, go ahead and say hello. Looks like we have Melanie on this morning and Zoe. So fun to see you both here today. This card is a really fun one to make, and I'm excited to share with you a couple fun techniques to get a lot of dimension out of this card. So if you've got your paper pumpkin kit and you want to craft along with me, you're going to need one of the envelope inserts with the multicolor blocks. You'll need your petal pink card base with the sunrise. You'll need the second piece of the pretty peacock card base that we cut yesterday. I need to find mine. Somewhere in this mess. All right, let's see. Oh, I already pulled everything out. Okay, that's why I couldn't find it. All right, so again, you have those two pieces, the insert and the card base, and you'll need that half sheet from yesterday's pretty peacock, okay? And then you'll just need a couple other things from your craft room. You'll need a thick, basic white card base, and I've already cut it to the correct size, which is 5.5 by 8.5, and then scored at 4 1/4. And then I just have a scrap piece of basic white cardstock as well, and we'll be stamping on that. And then I am using a couple other products for the card that are not in the kit. So I've got Mossy Meadow ink, and we're going to be stamping our pine tree in that. I like Mossy Meadow, especially with this card, because it's like the darker version of Old Olive. So I feel like it goes really nicely with that and gives a little bit of more dimension. So you could use a different color green if you'd like as well, or if you have Old Olive, you could do that. And then I am heat embossing another greeting at the bottom. And so I've got Versamark, I have my white embossing powder, and a heat tool ready to go. All right. So hello to everybody who's joining me this morning. Sorry about my arm there in the screen. We've got lots of fun people. I'm seeing lots of my friends on here. My crafting friends, good morning. Katie says she loves the alternatives so far. Oh, I'm so glad. This one is one of my favorites. I love all those colors in this one. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we begin, I do just want to mention that this kit did make 8 cards, and we've got the 2 original cards here. There were enough supplies to make 4 of each. If you haven't seen my unboxing video, you can click on the link, and that will be in the description box after the live video is over. So make sure to go there for that information. And if you are not already a Paper Pumpkin subscriber and you're thinking about doing something like that, subscribing, then next month, you don't want to miss next month. So the next month's kit, which was April 2021, it's called So Cool. And it's got some really fun images. You can kind of see a little teaser here. And it's going to include enough supplies to make 12 fun shaped cards. And I think there was a little video I saw, and they had like popsicle shapes. And I don't know if they'll all be popsicle shapes or if you will have different shapes, but we can make some fun cards out of those. So I'm really excited for the alternatives with this kit. So make sure to grab your kit if you're not already a subscriber, and you can use the link in the description box below to subscribe. And so that will be available as well after the live video is over. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is cut my envelope insert down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm just going to start here on the straight side and line that up at 4 inches. And then rotate and cut at 5 1/4. Okay, and then I'll just put that off to the side. Let's next do our pretty peacock. So we're going to cut this to 4 inches as well. Actually, I'm going to trim it first to 3 1/2, I think is what it is. Let me just double check my measurement here on my grid paper. Yes. So I'm going to cut it first at 3 1/2. And so I'm cutting it. So this is 4 1/4 here is my length. And then this length here is 5 1/2. And so I'm just removing 2 inches. So I've got 3 1/2 inches here and 2 inches here. And then I'll rotate and cut at 4 inches. And I'm trimming off the side that had the score line, just so I have a nice clean piece, because this side has a little bit of like a bevel to it. Okay, so that piece is ready. All right, just looking at the comments really quick, making sure I'm keeping my eye on those. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to ask those. I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, so we have our petal pink with our sunrise, and I'm going to first trim it at 4 1/4, which is right along that score line. And then I'm going to remove this sunrise piece here. But I want to do the top and bottom first, and then I'll remove the sides. So this first one, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I'm going to line it up this, so the top line here, I'm trying to place it in the center of my guide. So that's kind of where I am trying to line that up. And I want to just cut it right along that edge. And then I'll do the same thing here. So just lining up that green line right in the center of my guide. It's sitting just slightly below 2 15/16. So I'm just like 1/16 shy of 3 inches, and it's just a little bit below that. Okay. And then we're going to remove these 2 sides here, and they're about 1/2 inch. But again, you want to line it up so it's right in the cut line there. So it's a little bit over 1/2 inch. Again, it's 3 3/4, just shy of that. And then rotate and cut again. And this time I'm at 3 1/4, almost 3/16, okay? But the biggest part is just lining up that line with your cut guide. If you do that, then everything else should be fine. If by chance you have a little petal pink, you can just take a nice pair of scissors and just give it a slight trim to remove any of that petal pink. All right, so we're going to be using one of these side pieces, so just keep that. And the rest of these you can place back in your kit, and we'll use those for some other projects. So one of the fun things about this card is that it has dimension. And so if I hold it up straight, you can see here that I have removed the mountain range from the sunrise piece, and I have popped it up with some dimensionals. And then I've done the same with our pine trees. There's dimensionals on that as well. And then dimensionals here for our greeting. So it's just a really fun card to look at in person because you get some of those dimensions. I don't know if that's coming through very well in the video. Okay. So just take a pair of paper snips and you're just going to take your time and just cut right along that mountain range. And don't rush it because you do want it to be pretty close to that line. So just take your time. And it's actually it's not too hard to do. Like it's not super detailed of a cut. All right. So this is a step that you don't have to do. So if you don't love fussy cutting, then just skip this step and you can put the piece on the pretty peacock nice and just flat, and then you can add the pine trees. The pine trees are a little easier to fussy cut because you don't need to be exact with them. You can be, you know, do a little bigger bubble around them if you want. So this is just, you know, adding that little extra to the card, but you don't, it's not necessary. It's totally optional. Okay, so I've got those two pieces. And we'll just put those off to the side a little bit. And let's start adding some things to our card base. And like putting some stuff together. Whoops. All right, so go ahead and fold your card base and use a bone folder. And we're just going to add the pattern paper first to our card base with a little border around the edge. It's going to be about 1/8 of an inch of a border. So a little bit bigger than the card from yesterday. So just eyeball it. So that's ready to go. Now let's do on the pretty peacock, we're going to start by adding the sunrise. So if you have the glue dots, you can use the glue dots for this as well. I might add a little glue dot here to these corner pieces. There they are. So again, I've got my take a pick tool, which I love, and just adding those glue dots to those tiny places just to hold that edge down a little bit. Okay. So this is the top piece, the sunrise piece. The size of the pretty peacock, Heidi, is 4 inches tall by 3.5 inches wide. So this piece we're just eyeballing. We want it to be we want it to be even all the way on the sides and the top. So just find an even border and add that piece nice and flat to the card base. And then we're going to add the mountain range. I wanted it to be flat on the bottom and popped up on top. And that way that bottom piece doesn't get super thick with all the dimension. So I'm going to add some adhesive down here at the bottom and then a couple dimensionals at the top. Just like that. Okay, so When I add this, I want to do a slight overlap on the sunrise piece. I got a little frog in my throat. Excuse me. And I want to try to make sure that I line up those the edges with the sunrise piece as well. So just a really slight overlap, just so that you don't see the cut line on the sunrise piece, okay? So you're going to get something like that. It's turning out super cute. Okay. And then let's finish up this piece. So we are going to stamp the greeting. So I liked, you could use any greeting here. There's this fun one that says, all the best for a happy, healthy, and prosperous year. So that's a great one that would work down here too. And I also liked, may your journey through life take you to many new and exciting places. So that's the one I'm going to use down here. And I am going to use an embossing buddy. So this is a product that Stampin' Up! Used to sell, but they don't have anymore. And what it does is it just removes fingerprints or anything where the, we don't want the heat embossed powder to stay anywhere except for on that stamp. And so that just kind of helps clean off that area. It does make a little bit of a kind of chalky look, but I'll give you a tip on how to remove that. Okay, so I have my longer greeting here on my clear block. And I'm just inking it up with Versamark. If you've never heat embossed before, it's just so fun. Okay, so what you're doing here is you're going to actually stamp it near the bottom. So you're going to leave a gap. And you just want to line it up in the center, just kind of eyeballing it before I stamp. Give it good pressure to make sure that ink is transferred to the cardstock. And then you're going to add the white embossing powder and just add it to that bottom part. Okay, you don't need to get the powder all over the cardstock. And then just tap it off until you just have it on the stamp. And I'm just blowing it a little to try and clean it up a little bit, because the text is so small, it can be a little bit hard to read if you have too much powder on it. So now you're going to take your heat embossing tool or your heat tool. Sorry, it's going to get loud because it's just a noisy tool, and you're just going to heat it. I like to heat it from the bottom, and then you just wait for it to melt, okay? Okay, look how pretty that is. And it really clears up quite a bit once it starts to melt. So you can start to read those a little better. This journey didn't come out perfectly. So you'll just want to, I don't know. I think it's still worth it. I love having that little extra text down here, even if it doesn't come out quite clear enough. So that's a personal choice. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to grab a tissue or a paper towel or towel, and you just want to dampen it slightly. And I just will use my Simply Chamois because it's wet already, and I just pick up just a little bit of moisture off of that. Now you don't want to have a ton of color, so make sure your Simply Chamois is pretty clean. So you can see here there's a little moisture there, and you just rub it on your cardstock. So just the slightest amount of moisture. You don't want it to be wet. We're just removing that powder that the embossing buddy left. Okay, and now your cardstock's back to its original color. You don't have to worry about that little bit of film that the embossing buddy adds to the cardstock. Okay, So we'll move on. So we're going to move on to the next step. So we're going to do our stamping next. So I have a piece of basic white cardstock, and it's just big enough for my pine trees. So the stamp set that came in the kit is just really super cute. And I have all the stamps all over the place. So you can see that I've used a lot of them. But these are the images. So we've got, I think we've already shown some of these greetings, but we've got this really fun pine tree and then this flower. And we used the flowers on yesterday's alternative card. So if you haven't seen that, make sure to check that out. And you can look at the playlist, and there's a link to that in the description, or there will be after the live video is over. Okay, so we're going to use this pine tree one. And like I mentioned, I'm using Mossy Meadow for this. If you have a different green, you're welcome to use that as well. Just make sure that it, you like how it looks with those other colors in the card. So just ink it up nicely. I did add a little layer of Versamark here when I was using it for my card, just to kind of hold the ink in place. Okay, so sometimes photopolymer has, it just doesn't hold so well to the ink. And so you can ink it up with Versamark first, and that's sticky, and so it will hold on to your ink, better. All right, so then I took a pair of paper snips and I did fussy cut this out, but I thought just to save on time, I would do that ahead of time. So here's my fussy cut pine trees. And like I said before, you could do even bigger bubble if you wanted, if you're not a big fan of fussy cutting. So that stamping is done. And then on your petal pink strip, remember this one is the one that came from the side of our sunrise. So it's about a 1/2 inch, and I think it's 3 inches. Let me check. Yeah, it's just shy of 3 inches, and it's about a 1/2 inch in width or length. What is this? Height. And I've got my Calypso Coral. And I really like the Here's to You stamp. I think it's just a really nice, bold image. I did try the Congratulations one as well. It just is a little bit on the small side for me. So definitely, let me see if I can grab that. So here's the Congratulations. Not only is it a little bit crooked, but it's kind of tiny for that size. But if you wanted a different card, to have something else, you could use this or find a different greeting, maybe from a different stamp set that you have. I'm going to go ahead and use Here's to You. So I'm inking that up with the Calypso Coral that came in the kit. And I do have Versamark on here as well, just to kind of hold that ink in place. And then center that and stamp. Okay, so let's add our pine trees. So you can put some glue dots down here, or again, just use your Stampin' Seal Plus. And then you're going to add the dimensionals. And you don't want to add them too close to the top of this big pine tree, because that will go over the mountain range. So you want to bring them down just slightly so that it's on top of the mountains. And then I just placed these down in the bottom right corner, like that. And then let's see, I've got some twine. So I did use 16 inches here. After I put the card together, I realized you probably don't need to use 16 inches. You could probably just tie like a bow and put the bow under the greeting, because you're really just seeing the bow, not really the whole tie around it. So here's that tie. You can see it on just that side. So that's a choice. If you want to save on your linen thread, you could just maybe do 10 inches for the bow or something. So I'm running it through my fingers to just loosen up that curl. And then we're going to find the center. So I've put my ends together, and then I'm just going to put the center on that side and then bring all those together and tie a knot on this side. Tying knots and bows sometimes can be, you know, just hard to do. So I always like to tie a knot. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then you can rotate it to the other, to more like just a little bit in from that edge. So maybe it's like an inch or so in from the edge. And then tie a bow. All right, I should look at the comments really quick. So you want your bow to kind of come up so that it doesn't hide behind your greeting, okay? All right, I'll just take a quick break and look at the comments really quickly. Lots of hellos, so hello to everyone who's joined us. Lots of people are saying, beautiful card, great tip. All right. Hildenelle mentioned that it reminds her of a Polaroid picture. And I agree, Hildenelle, that's kind of the idea I was going with when I made the Pretty Peacock piece a little bit bigger, was that Polaroid picture look. So it's kind of that fun. So I'm glad that you thought that as well. So we're going to add our Here's to You. Actually, let's put this down first. So put a little adhesive on the back. And just maybe about an inch or so from the left, or you can do it on the right. That's up to you. I do have the greeting is coming off the right a little bit, so you do want to give it a little bit of space for that. But it will line up with the pattern paper, so you'll have just a slight, so that white border goes all the way around the card. Okay, and then this is going to have the dimensionals on it. And again, I want to have a nice big dimensional. So I'm just going to snip the edge here. And on this one, I'm going to actually place the dimensional over that twine just to hold everything where I want it. And let's do the same on this side here. I normally put the dimensionals behind my greeting, but because I want to hold that twine in place, or that linen thread, that's why I've done it this way. So then just make sure that goes on nice and straight. You don't want to cover up your greeting down here with your larger greeting. So make sure that goes up high enough. This little twine can kind of cover it up because, you know, you can move that out of the way. I'm going to just bring it a little higher. Make that a little bigger. Okay. And that card is all done. So this one's just a really fun, multicolored, bright, happy card that you can give to anybody. And again, loving all that dimension there in the landscape. Super duper cute. The Bling Bling Crafter says, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. She says it really helps the channel and shows her we enjoy her videos. Thank you so much. I totally agree. Hit that thumbs up if you love this video and my cards. Carol says she did not like this paper pumpkin this time, but love the alternatives. Did you get the kit, Carol, even though you weren't sure about it? Sometimes we, you know, can put our kits on hold if we're not loving the previews that they send out. So hopefully you did get the kit and you're enjoying making your alternatives. Oh, lots of nice comments. Thank you so much to everybody. So I hope you try making this card. If you're interested in getting some written instructions or seeing close-up images, you can visit my blog, creativechelsey.com. The link should be in the description box below as well. And I hope you guys have a wonderful and creative day. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye-bye.